Hey guys, Brian Pierce here from Seat Time, our regular cohort on the couch at Jordan Bailey. This past weekend we got a chance to ride the 2015 KTM 250 XC-F head-to-head against the new 2015 YZ 250 FX. Now, luckily enough, the guys at Adventure Moto here in McKinney, Texas hooked us up with the KTM, and obviously Jason Raines with his demo program was in town, so that's how we were able to get hold of the FX. With this new bike that Yamaha has released, it gives a complete head-to-head bike-to-bike competition between the KTM XC line and what never really existed for a very long time, a race-capable off-road weapon from the more Japanese manufacturers like Yamaha. Now, Jordan Bailey has ridden Yamahas for a long time.
Yep. Since about 2011, I got on Yamahas. I've rode a lot of the Yamaha bikes too. I rode the WR250, the YZ250F, the YZ250 two-stroke, and the YZ125. So had a good amount of time on their big bikes.
And I've ridden a lot of Yamahas up until about 2007 when I got on KTMs and I went from different two-strokes. So we kind of have been on these two types of brands, so we know the brands really well, but we haven't ridden, respectively to the other brands. So that's kind of an interesting take on it. But one of the big things that Yamaha brought to the table is they took the award-winning 2015 YZ250F and they made that machine an off-road capable race weapon. Biggest things are electric start, suspension tuning, the 18-inch rear wheel, and of course the 6-speed transmission. Things like that make it a complete comparable machine to the XC line that KTM has. So we said, hey, let's go test these new features and see how these bikes compare. So we knew the electric start in the KTMs always worked really good. We did notice once the bike got really hot that we actually had a lot of issues with the bike starting. But is that really anything that's going to be an issue? No. We know that this bike had a lot of time on the top end, so we're not really too concerned about that. But the Yamaha, we had a lot of luck with that, didn't we?
Yeah, the electric start worked really well. It's really fast. The bikes, both of them in general, were both really good bikes, really strong power-wise, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah. So the electric start, I thought on the Yamaha worked great. Never had an issue with it. In gear, out of gear, it just did its thing. So super stoked on that. Of course, 18-inch rear wheel. That just really is a great way to help prevent flats, and maybe when you can run bibs, you get a little bit more pressure, or a little bit more ground coverage of the tire because of that. So it's a patch that it's going to touch the ground. Yay! 18-inch rear wheel works great, does exactly what it's supposed to do. So off-road suspension, though, the valving is a big difference, especially for somebody like yourself. Tell us what you thought about the suspension.
Okay, so I'm a little bit smaller, lighter, and a little bit weaker, to be honest. So the FX suspension was plush, not too plush, but it worked really, really good. I mean, it's bone stock and handled well. Everything was good. The KTM, a little bit stiffer, a little bit harder to ride. That's something that I think that if we were to buy the bike off the showroom floor, that would have to be a must on the KTM, is to have the suspension redone. So that's kind of my...
Yeah, the front end on the KTM was very stiff. And you could tell that if you were to go buy that bike and try to race it with the valving as it was, that you would probably beat to crap after 2 to 3 hours of racing, say if you're going to go do a GNCC. Now granted, yes, there are some setup things you can do, like bring the forks up in the triple clamps a little bit. That'll help release some of that pressure that seems to build up when you kind of hit some of those square edge objects. But overall, suspension that they've got for valving wise on the Yamaha was awesome, and I as well actually enjoyed riding that bike a little bit better than I did the KTM because of the suspension. Now we'll talk about the 6-speed transmission. I thought that first and second gear seemed to be a little useless. And I put that in quotes because obviously it's not useless. They did exactly what they're supposed to do. They got the bike from first to second.
Yeah, I feel like though as racers,
right.
So we're not trail riders, we're testing the bikes as racers, they kind of were useless for a racer.
Yeah.
They were too low, and it was a little awkward going from second to third. Once you got out of third and up, seemed really good, but those first and second gears were kind of awkward at racing speeds.
Yeah, there's obviously things that you can do with that. Now say if you were to drop a tooth in the back sprocket, those gears would then be a tad bit taller. Only thing is, then of course your entire ratio of gears is a little bit taller. So you've got to pay attention to that kind of stuff and just figure out what's going to work for you. But, gearing on the KTM I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
First and second gear, super aggressive, almost to the point where you're like, man, am I going to get worn out? But rode really good. We noticed the flywheel weight actually was a lot different too. KTM seemed to have a very, very small flywheel, where the flywheel on the FX was fairly large. So
noticeable when you're riding it too. I mean, the KTM, very torquey, so much power off the bottom end, all the way through, had so much power. But the YZ, not in a bad way, is a little bit smoother, slower feeling, but just smoother all the way through because that heavier flywheel. Not an advantage or disadvantage to either one.
Yep,
definitely
different power delivery. So that's kind of our thoughts on some of the new features, if you will, that they've added to the YZ-F, that is now the FX. What made that an off-road race weapon? I think if you were to say which one are we going to go buy, I know that you made your decision.
I did. It's the YZ-FX.
And strangely enough, even though I'm a KTM rider, I would go out and buy that bike. I think right now the way it is that you've got the best base to start off of. I feel like on the KTM right now, your average racer is going to have to degrade that bike. It's not a degradation, it's just that, de-stiffify.
Yes.
To take away some of the stiffness and the aggressiveness, because that's just something that could wear you out over a long race. Where the YZ, being so smooth and so plush, would be a bike that you might try to just add a little bit of stiffness or maybe a little bit of aggression in different areas.
Yeah, but off the showroom floor, the YZ would be a little bit easier to take out in a race versus the KTM.
Yep, absolutely. So, that's our thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let us know in the comments below. So make sure you subscribe so you can check out all of our episodes. And remember, always enjoy a pint full of awesome, and hopefully we get a chance to do this again.